take advantage of today's market? Call the man with over 17 years in the business, Thomas Meissen of Red and White Realty. Call him today at 902-233-5111 for solid expert advice.
Show where there's no
Hello, world, and welcome to the Wolf's Den today. And today we are doing part two, with my buddy, Mr. Ken Tobias, up in St. John, New Brunswick. We're all settled in after a big, nasty snowstorm here on the east coast of Canada. And we're just getting back to where we were last week. And so we're just going to say hello to each other for now, and then we'll get going. Good day, my friend. How are you tonight?
Hey, man. Hey, Wolf. Hi, Wolf. Hi, Wolf, man. Wolf. How you doing, Wayne?
I'm doing just fine, my friend. And like I said, I'm glad to see you made it through another one of these. Well, today we had a nor'wester, not a nor'easter, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
And life is, we were just talking about how as we get older, our minds are still places that in the days of grand memories, and our bodies are kind of laughing at us.
Well, I've always believed, like, when that the reason that you need your mom and dad kind of thing is they have to, through love, join together and create a suit for you when you come into town, and you get this suit and it's pretty good, but you're only going to have it for a period of time. So eventually the guy inside goes, holy cow, the suit doesn't fit quite anymore. And it starts to go down on you. And the real next thing you know, you come into a place where you're going to leave and try to get another suit, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you would hope you get a better suit,
I believe in it. Although the suit I had this time, it did me well. I'm grateful for it.
Yeah, I hope my next suit is as good as this one was to me.
Yeah,
But I think as we have the luxury to get a little older, and hopefully the smarts to take the wisdom that comes with that.
You're right. Yeah.
And to realize that, we've been given, no matter what, we've been blessed. And if we look at the people that we have been privileged enough to know, I always say, growing older is we have the honor to bury our friends. And I think that there's no better homage than we can give somebody than to be there to send them off to where they need to go and to be there, period, actually.
Well, that brings me to a thing. My father was the provincial director in New Brunswick, the provincial director of Red Cross Water Safety for the province for a long time. They used to call him Mr. Water Safety. And he was like a really handsome, well-built, naturally well-built human being. And he had the opportunity in his life to save physically himself 14 people from drowning.
Wow.
Like, how many of us get a chance to save one person or even be there to assist?
Yeah.
And it is such a privilege to be able to help someone along the line. And anytime someone comes to me as a songwriter, I used to work for the Canadian Songwriters Association in Toronto. I do adjudications for them, and occasionally we do song shops or power song shops and help others along. And just to be able to pass on some information to someone to help them along the route is definitely a privilege. I have to say that I did have the privilege one time to save a little girl. I was a water safety instructor like my brother. We followed my father's path to a point. And to this day, I'll never, ever forget the face of that little girl.
Yeah.
And how she clung to me after I pulled her out of the water.
Yeah.
And what got me most of all was when she was under the water looking up at me with a huge wad of gum in her mouth. And she was looking at me, and I know she was screaming underwater, but I couldn't hear it because of a wad of gum. And as soon as I pulled her out, practically by the hair, she clung to me, and I pulled the wad out of her mouth, and it's like instant, like there was no sound, and then this huge scream. And, and then she clung to me, and her mother came down, ran down the dock and tried to get her from me, but she wouldn't let go of me because I was the one at the moment who saved her life. And, whatever you grab on, whatever you can. And I'll never, ever, ever, ever forget.
And, people think, the TV stereotypical of somebody flailing and screaming and going under the water. It doesn't happen.
No.
I used to run a bass tournament, and there was a little kid fishing in the bass tournament, and he just literally walked underwater. He just walked off the edge of the ledge, and that was the end of it.
Wow.
And if somebody wouldn't have seen him, we would have never known what the hell happened to him.
Yeah, yeah.
And a guy just reached down and pulled him up. Now, it's funny because my mother-in-law lived in New Brunswick as a young woman. They had come over from England, and she lived in the Minto area.
Oh, yeah.
And one day there was 3 young boys out in a lake that got into trouble, and she took a rowboat and rowed out to them, didn't know how to swim herself, and saved 2 of them and couldn't save the 3rd guy. And to this day, I have that. They gave her a plaque. Probably the province of New Brunswick, they gave her a plaque, and we actually still have that hanging in our house.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So it's funny how little things, you think, they're, but people's lives.
If you go through your mind just for a few minutes and say what stands out, and there are certain moments. You mentioned about meeting people. I mean, there's certain people that I've met that who were like big, huge stars, and I didn't get an impression. But then there's a few people I met that weren't necessarily there, who all of a sudden go, yeah, I remember that person. I mean, I met this guy once. His name was Smale. Crazy. He was a guy. He was a traveler, and I was living in Hollywood, and he was visiting somebody in the building, and he came through, and I met him, and he had this beautiful doe hide top on, really beautifully made, and so on. And I was doing a shoot for my next album cover, for the second MGM album cover, and I said, "Geez, I sure like that top, man." He says, "Well, do you want to wear it?" I said, "Well, I'm doing a shoot. Can I wear it in the shoot?" And he said, "Yeah." So we were doing the shoot on Bob Dylan's old ranch. They took me there to this place, and anyway, took the shoot with that thing on. But what got me was he turned me on to a book that was written by a guy by the name of Talbot Mundy, who was my favorite author from the 20s and 30s and stuff. And I read almost a lot of his books. And the book was called Om, Secret of Abor Valley. And he said, when you read this, it's going to change your life. I only saw him for a day, and never saw him again after that. And I searched and searched and searched for that book. And one time I'm in Toronto, and I'm up visiting my brother, and down below him was an old antique shop that was like, actually, they were just setting up, and they got a whole bunch of new books. And I went down, and there was a box of books. And I said, "Can I go through these?" He says, "Yeah." And I looked through it, and there it was. And when I read that, it changed my life. It really did. It was fantastic, and I have it.
It was worth.
Go ahead.
It was worth the journey.
It was, but it absolutely worth the journey, and it really, really inspired me. And I went, holy cow! And funny thing is, when I was I told you I follow the spiritual path teaching I follow, and in that particular teaching, they had a book list of things that we should check out, and that was on the list. And I thought, there are no coincidences. I don't believe in coincidences.
No,
I believe in karma.
Now, yes. When I was a young man, I was the type of a person that, woe is me. The world has been bad to me. The world has been nasty to me, and it owes me, and I'm just mad and bitter. And there comes a point in time in your life when you realize that no matter what happened to you yesterday, you're responsible for today and tomorrow. And whatever happened to you, it didn't kill you, so it should have made you stronger because you're still here.
Mm-hmm.
And it shouldn't define who you are. So I've spent a lot of years fighting that demon, but I agree with you. There's no coincidences. Things happen for a reason. And a lot of times, I think it's just that we have to kind of open our eyes and acknowledge the fact that it's really there.
And something, I live on 2 levels, in two worlds, basically. I look at things in a common, what they call mundane sense, earthly sense. And then I also look at the same things in a mystical sense. I kind of see what does that mean in another sense. For example, like I would look at, say, Trump, and I see him as, what everybody else thinks he's like. He's not a very nice person, I don't think, and so on and so forth. But then I think of him and what he's done and what he does, almost like a dark force trying to break up America, which was, if you look at the history of America, the very beginning of America, it was based upon the Masons and their teachings of spiritual consciousness and all this sort of thing. And when they signed, this is true, it's a true story. when they were about to sign the Declaration of Independence, they were in some kind of a place where they had a gallery, and they were about to sign it. And this is written in the Library of Congress. They got afraid for a few minutes. They backed off. They said, "Oh my God, we're treason. This is treason against England, et cetera, et cetera." And a man stood up in the gallery with robes on and gave them like 5 minutes of why it was important that America be based upon these ethics and morals at this time. They all went, "Oh yeah, right." He convinced them. They all went to sign. They looked up. He was gone. He disappeared. They don't know who the heck he was, where he was from. So those little moments make me feel that there is, to me, a couple of ways of looking at things. You look at it in a mundane sense, and you can look at it in a higher spiritual, whatever, mystical sense, if you want to call it. And I do, and I am able to kind of work my way through life in a sense of getting wisdom and looking and opening my consciousness up and getting in a moment where it might pass by, I see something in it. I might see more in it. Maybe that's why I'm a songwriter. Maybe that's why I'm a painter. Maybe that's why I observe life and try to put it into art. This sort of thing. It's take it as the way it is, but that's the way I look at it, kind of thing.
Owning your own home is a big deal. Whether it's you don't have any rental payments anymore, you're downsizing, you need an in-law suite, maybe you just need the equity. A good home is always good for good equity. But to get started, to buy in that home, you need a good, solid real estate agent. Thomas Meissen from Red and White Realty, he's your guy. With over 17 years experience in the business, he'll take care of you firsthand from start to finish. Good, solid advice. 17 years in the business. Give him a call, 902-233-5111 for solid, excellent guidance from a pro with over 17 years in the business. Thomas Meissen from Red and White Realty, 902-233-5111. As you were saying, my friend.
Well, like I said, I look at things on that level, and the funny thing is, if you look, you see it. I've seen some, I tell people, I've seen some stuff that actually really mystical things. I've seen phenomena, and I wasn't smoking pot, and I wasn't freaking stoned or anything. And I've seen phenomena because I practice certain things. They open your consciousness up. If you seek, you'll see it. If you look in some of the ways to look at the philosophy is that if you raise your consciousness, then the chemism in your body will change, because your mind, and when that chemism changes in your body as you grow, then certain things will come to you. For example, if you practice, perhaps you'll get what they call clairaudience. You'll be able to hear at a distance, or clairvoyance, or some sort of thing will happen to you, and you'll go, "Oh wow. I saw people way over there and I heard exactly what they said." And you'll wonder why. Well, because you've been seeking it and looking for it. And then, like I said before in the other interview, you reach up, you got to reach up, and then, you'll find it.
Yeah.
But some people, unfortunately, and I really feel badly for them, are so caught up in the responsibilities of their lives, taking care of kids or going to work or trying to make a living or trying to pay the mortgage or whatever they are. They don't always have enough time to seek that out, and that's where we artists are a little more fortunate. We put ourselves in that position. Granted, we can I'm all right now, but can always pay your rent or whatever. But there's a trade-off.
Yeah.
Well, there's a trade-off in the sense of But go ahead.
I think maybe the trade-off is that these people are working to survive, and you are doing what you're doing because that's what you need to do to survive.
I think it's karma. Exactly. I think when we were talking about the suits, I think the suit I got this time was to do those things. I always thank God that and I always say this, I thank those who helped me fulfill my dharma, which is basically meaning that what you're supposed to do when you're here, by bringing beauty into the world through music and art. And I always say thank you for that. I always pray and I say thank you for that, because trust me, I've had people come to me. Let me give you an example. Oh, this is a good example. I wrote a song called Dream Number 2. It's about a little boy who wanted to fly. I'm in Montreal. I'm in a basement apartment. I got this most beautiful woman standing beside me in a white bell bottoms and the beautiful long blonde hair. And we're just about to go out. And I'm kind of like the stud a little bit and I'm ready to go out. And I said, listen, I gotta run to the, she said, I have to run to the bathroom for a minute. I'll be right back. So I'm sitting on a chair and I got a piece of paper and a pencil and I'm drawing a pair of wings. I'm just drawing them. And she comes in and she says, what are you doing? And I said, I'm drawing a picture of a pair of wings because I want to fly. Don't say anything. Don't say a word. Don't say a darn word. And I started to write. And it was given to me. I wrote 2/3 of the song right there, that minute. You know that song? When I finally, honed it down and finally turned it into something, that song, there was a story that went on the internet, or the Canadian press. It was picked up all over Canada about this story that happened to me. And I was living in Toronto in Reaction Studios, in my business studio and so on and so forth. And I get this call on the phone from this lady. How she got my number, I have no idea. And she says, hello, is this Ken Tobias? And I said, yes, it is. Who's calling, please? She said, my name is so-and-so. I have to tell you this. I've been trying to get in touch with you for a long time. Oh, really? My husband, who is dying of cancer, he was a lighthouse keeper on the West Coast. And he had your song Dream Number 2 and he played it every day for 30 years.
Wow.
And he has worn it out and he doesn't have a copy. And he's now very ill. And I said, I heard some guy inside me go, how can I help you? This voice came, how may I help? And she said, well, I don't know. I said, give me your address, blah, blah, blah. Next day I had that's the disc. I had it sent out to her. And I said, you'll get it, blah, blah, blah. My God, thank you for getting in touch with blah, blah. So she apparently got in touch with the press or something and let it known. Next thing you know, about a week later, she calls me and she says, hello, Ken, this is so-and-so. I have to tell you what happened. I said, what happened? She said, well, the package arrived shortly after our conversation. The package arrived. He was overjoyed. He got the CD, he put it on, he played it through twice, and then he died.
Oh, man.
But the point was it was beautiful. It wasn't bad, it was beautiful. It was like the guy went off dreaming of the Dream Number 2 about, the whole wisdom of the tune, what have you. And I mean, I just started to weep. I just wept. I mean, even now I get tears. I'm
getting them.
And it went and that's exactly what happened. As soon as what I just said to you, that's how she said it to me. And it went all across Canada and it was picked up by radio, whatever.
Wow.
That's one part of it. How a song that an artist can do can affect the person. I'll give you another little example of it. I'm in Montreal. I'm playing at a place in Point Claire. I had already had a couple of hits and we were headlining. The show was over and I'm calling up my cables a little bit, putting my guitar away. And there was a whole group of bikers that were there, but in Quebec, there's a lot of bikers, but they're not like, Hell's Angel types. Everybody likes to bike up there. So there's a lot of bikers up there and they're all over in the corner sitting and they're all kind of toughies and so on. And I saw this one guy out of the corner of my eye get up. And there's nobody there, but they got people cleaning up the tables and so on and so forth. And he gets up and he starts to walk toward me. Then he goes back and sits down again. And I kept seeing him and I kept calling my cables and making myself available. So finally, after a couple of 3 times, he comes over to the stage and he says to me, and forgive me, I'm going to use an accent because it's important. He says, you wrote that song, eh? That song, that Dream Number 2, eh? And I said, yes, I did. You really wrote that, huh? I said, yeah. And he says, you you dream of flying, eh? I said, yes, I do. Then he looked back at the table for a minute, and he looked at me and said, I have dreams of flying too. He said, really? He said, really, and really, it's really happening. I said, well, that's your spirit, eh? It's a feeling of spirituality. Your spirit's taking off. He didn't want anybody over there to know about it
Yeah.
because he was kind of tough, right? This is only two of many stories I get from people who are moved or dream or every bit of love, how they conceive their first children in the backseat of their car, with the windows fogged up, sock feet on the, you know what I mean? That is just unbelievable when you can touch the heart of someone else with something that comes through you, and you create this stuff and it happens. Gosh, I mean.
But I think you are given a gift, and thankfully you've recognized it and you've shared it. You haven't been selfish with it. There are people that have a gift and they think it's only for them, and there's people out there, there's artists out there that are bigger than the people who appreciate their art. And that's a sad, sad day because they're losing so much. They've got it in their mind that they're supposed to be this thing or this entity or whatever, and they somehow feel jaded or robbed. And what they're really, really missing is that, what? I have been immensely, immensely blessed to be able to do what I do and to touch the people's lives that I do. And I should be thankful for that. And I should be humble and accept that and be grateful.
It's amazing right now. The same thing is happening to me on Facebook, for example. I have 5,000 friends, supposedly. I mean, I don't know half of them. I don't know. I might know 500 of them. I mean, I might see their names and then there's a smaller amount that I actually communicate with. I don't know them, never met them, but they're real nice. And it's been like 10 years. So, but I'm getting the same thing on my paintings now. There are people who come in and say, today I was so sad, Ken, and you put that painting up. And man, did it ever make me feel good. Or I'm so glad you put that song up. Now I'm walking around. I had such a terrible time today. And they don't they don't tell me exactly what happened because for some reason or other, they don't really want to bother me with it. They just tell me the result of it kind of casually. And I just, it's just joyous. It's just a fantastic,
Well, I'm really glad that you don't see it as an intrusion into your day when somebody says, thank you for making my day a little better.
I put my Facebook thing up for two reasons. One, I wanted to show my paintings, and two, and for the sake, not to sell them, even though I have sold them, not to sell them. And I wanted to put my songs up, and I wanted to make myself available to my fans and friends, where they could actually say, Ken, what strings are you using? Or how did you write that tune? As long as they don't cause me grief and abuse that particular communication.
Yeah.
So I have only had two of that things happen in 10 years. And funny thing is, I knew these people already knew a couple of them from Toronto. And then what they did was when they came in, I let them in. And what they did, they went after a couple of my other people, kind of, and I went, wait a minute, and I bumped them off. So you can't do that. But my point is that part, especially I've met so many cool people. I just met a whole bunch of beautiful people who are artists. And interesting, I did a painting of Margaret Atwood a few weeks ago, and it turned out quite well. Anyway, so there was there's a bunch of artists that got together, and they formed this Elaine Silverman formed this thing called the Haven of Art for art and for the spoken word, and they invited me in, and I looked at the artists and my God, they're all just beautiful, fantastic artists. So I said I was very, very humbled to be a part of it, and anyway, going in there, one of the persons in there said, I know one of the artists who Margaret Atwood buys paintings from, and I'm going to send this picture to him and see if he'll get it to Margaret. I'm still waiting to hear, but at the same time, when she sent it to that artist, he went, "Oh, I really like this, so I'll do this." So we'll see what happens. And I'm not looking to sell it.
No,
I'm not looking to sell it to her. It's not one of those things. But if she's interested in having it, hell, just give me a signed copy of the Handmaid's Tale.
There you go.
You got the
Oh my! But again, she touched you obviously because you painted her picture, right?
That's right. Yeah.
So there's a little bit of a symbiotic relationship there. You guys are, you're both kind of feeding off of each other because you like what she does, and I know she's gonna like what you do. I don't know many that don't. Since we've gone to air with the first show, I mean, I've had all kinds of comments. One of my other guys at the radio station said, "Oh my goodness, was he in Halifax? Give me his email. I want to talk to him too." Right? And I said,
that's really nice. I appreciate it.
So I mean, we'll be talking about that later. But you mentioned something earlier, and it was something that I was going to bring up anyhow. You are really and truly, I mean, you're a performer. You were a performer, but first and foremost, you've really been a songwriter. Would that be a true statement?
Yeah, I've come to terms with that now because of a few of the things that have happened to me in the past. I went, oh, yeah, I put two and two together. I finally got it all straightened up because, yeah, when I was younger, I sang other people's tunes when I was, in high school and stuff like this occasionally. But I wrote my first tune and my first song, and we won a hootenanny contest in Dartmouth with the Ramblers, and I sang that tune, and I got so much feedback. And then there was a group that was with us, and they took the song and recorded it. It was the very first song I ever wrote, called "Little Drops of Water, Little Grains of Sand." So I was a songwriter, even though I was singing, but we were doing like Kingston Trio and blah blah blah. That was the only original song we had, and so yeah, I was a singer. But later on, as it went down with the record companies and so on, and like I was mentioning on my records, I had so many different. I went to writing, for example, in my new catalog of songs. I have no record company people anymore telling me what to do. I have nobody telling me what to do. I just, I can follow my own whims, and that's fair. To follow my own whims, write if I want to write, a Chinese tune, I can write it, kind of thing. But I noticed, I looked at the tunes and I said, geez, a lot of Latin American feels, there's some real funky feels. And my bands, this is a thing. I think it was one writer, I don't know if it was Larry LeBlanc, one of those writers said, Ken Tobias has never been on record because his live show and his recordings are not the same. And that's so true.
Yeah.
Because I had funk and fusion bands. I had rock, a lot of rock and funk and fusion, and I do my hits.
Yeah.
Okay. But on the records, you got a lot of the, they asked me to, wrote the pop tunes and the tunes that would be, hopefully successfully on the radio.
Yeah.
And so it's true. We used to bring in every musician in Toronto used to come to see my bands, guys that because there were lineups down the street, because it wasn't like, not that everybody loves a bad tune. It wasn't, but it's not that what they were there for. They were to see my musicians. I had great musicians always in my bands, and we funked it up. And so anyway, songwriter first. Every tune was different. There are all kinds of different kinds of tunes. And right now, I look at it now and I go, gee, there's a James Brown type tune. There's a lot of Latin American stuff. There's a couple of, there's some rhythm and blues. There's some funk. No, not funk, but I don't know, country-esque kind of things. There's some kind of folk leanings. So and the record companies, that's why, I had some really good radio hits. Didn't sell a lot of records, some good radio hits. I wrote a hit that sold 4 million records for the Bells, and that's fine. And when I went to Hollywood, why I got known was because I was a songwriter.
Yeah.
That's where I got my claim to fame. And once I had that, the funny thing is, once I got that hit record for Stay a While,
yeah,
I'm in the studio recording it at MGM, and they got they got security, and to get to where I was really far away. And I'm in the booth, and I'm putting a harmonica solo on a song called Now I'm in Love. And the booth door opens up, and this guy comes in to the booth, and of course I don't know who he is. I think he's going to kill me. And I'm going, oh, who's this guy? And the thing stopped, everything stopped. Who's this guy? Hey, what's going on? And he said, no, I'm not going to here to hurt you. He said, I just want to know who's got your publishing on that song, Stay a While. This guy came out of nowhere and he destroyed a recording session, a solo, because he was trying to find out who had my publishing because he knew I was a hit songwriter.
Oh my. Looking to own your first or next new to you home? Stop dreaming and start owning. Call Thomas at 902-233-5111 to make your dreams come true at Red and White Realty. That's Thomas Meissen, 233-5111, 902-233-5111. Now we're back. There we go.
I'll never forget that. And the irony of it is we were in New York at Polydor Records because we were invited in because I had the hit with Stay a While. And we're sitting in the, and listen, I'll tell you right now, a lot of record company heads at those days, they were little scumbags. You know, a lot of those guys, all they were like carny people, you know. Yeah. This guy's sitting there, he's going, I'm really glad you had those hits, Ken. I hope you're going to write us another one. And as we're sitting there, in the door comes that guy, walks in the door, and I went, you're this, and there's some expletives. You're the guy that ruined my recording session and so on. What's your name? And he gave me his name, and the president looks at me and goes, yeah, funny, yeah. He was just, just business. I said, he destroyed my recording session because he was trying to find. Couldn't he wait till afterward? How he got in there, I have no idea. But the guy says to me, the company head said to me, how you feeling these days, Ken? I said, well, I just had a breakup with my girlfriend and I don't feel so good. Oh, that's great. That's great. I'm glad you have a lot of pain. Write us a lot of hits. I'm telling you, man, these guys.
Yeah.
No empathy whatsoever.
No, all they cared about was, and really and truly, all you were was a song machine.
That's right.
Okay. And then if you broke, right, they'd just push you to the side and they'd go out and they'd get another song machine and bring that in and do the same thing with it.
I hear the same stories, basically what happened to people like, Barry Mann and Cynthia Weil and Carole King's, a lot of the writers, Neil Sedaka and those guys, they all were ripped off by the companies. And I'll tell you, because Sharon Shealy, this is a true story. Sharon Shealy, who was my mentor in California, she wrote Poor Little Fool for Ricky Nelson, Dum Dum for Brenda Lee. She was Eddie Cochran's girlfriend. She was in a crash, but he died. But she was my mentor. I love this lady. She's one of my best friends. And she's rest in peace. But what am I going to say about her? I hate this when you get to be older.
Yeah. The thought goes, it comes and then it leaves.
Oh, I know what it was. She said, the manager of Eddie Cochran, his name was Capehart. And she noticed one day, she was telling me, she said, I noticed one day, she said, when the record came out, because I co-wrote the tunes, she co-wrote a lot of tunes with Eddie. She said, I noticed that there was C. Capehart also on the writing. And she said, I said, well, what? Well, he was a manager. He didn't write any of the tunes. I said, oh, he didn't, eh? She said, no, he took credit for and got a piece of it. And I mean, that's exactly what was like in those.
Yeah, and if they thought they had a big hit and they could slide their name in on the contract, oh, well, I told them 2 words and they used them. I and am.
I received and I got a photograph of it. We received there were 12 of us or 13 of us. We received the first Procan Awards in Canada for over 100,000 airplays of one of our songs.
That's right. Yep.
And then that was Procan before SOCAN. Before that was BMI and ASCA. Well, okay, it was myself, Bryan Adams, Burton Cummings. There was Randy Bachman. There was the 2 people who wrote that song, "Sweet and Gentle Flower Growing Wild." Cries for she's a lady. Oh, I love that song. And anyway, the 2 writers were there. They were just writers. They were there, and Haygood Hardy, God rest his soul, and a few others. We were all there. Well, Bryan Adams wouldn't take a photograph. He wouldn't be in the photograph because there was a guy there. nobody knew who he was. He was sitting up behind. He was a lawyer. And apparently he had taken credit for part of Cuts Like a Knife.
Oh.
And he was in the photograph. And Brian, I was wondering why. I said, Brian, you know, because I've spoken a few times, Brian just wouldn't show up for the photograph. He wouldn't dare sit. And that's what he told me. He said, I wouldn't be there. No, and he wouldn't go up and sit with, he wouldn't go up and sit in the photograph with we had taken. And this guy, I don't know who he was.
Wow.
You know, he was a lawyer, and apparently he had some way of that it contributed to the song, and therefore legally, apparently, he was in the picture. You know,
he was entitled to be there.
Yeah, but I don't know what happened. And Brian probably thought maybe there was some weirdness that went down. Maybe it was just a legality.
Well, you know what I mean? Maybe Brian, you know, figured it was his song and that this guy weaseled in some way or whatever. I mean, we'll really never know the truth because there's always three sides to the story, right?
But I mean, those are my experiences, you know, in the songwriting side of things, you know. But to answer your question, I know I made it long. Yeah, so I come to terms with the fact that I'm a songwriter first who actually could sing. And I don't always sing all those tunes well, but I, you know, whatever.
But that's, you know, and I know a lot of songwriters that say, well, I'm a songwriter because I can't sing, you know, and then I have other friends that say, well, I kind of feel bad because my real true calling is to be a songwriter, but I can sing. So I do sing some of them. But if you ask me really and truly, I only sing because I have to.
Yeah.
You know, it's in me. It's got to come out. So I have to do it. But other than that, I'd be just as happy to sit in the back room and write music for the next 50 years and nobody ever see me on stage.
Well, it's like Sharon Shealy, you know, Sharon didn't play an instrument or anything. You know, I mean, she told me a story how she got the song "For a Little Fool" to Ricky Nelson. You know, she apparently rented a beach house or something, and his beach house was up a ways, and she just walked along the beach, and she was like a photo play model, really fine looking woman, and she walked up the beach and she ran into him, and she said, "Yeah, I got a song for you," and they talked about it, and the next thing you know, and a million seller later, you know, and I know I had a chance to meet him. She brought me. Look, she taught me so much. Do you mind me talking about this a little bit?
No, you listen. This is your hour, buddy. You talk about whatever you want.
It's not name dropping. It's just part of the songwriting thing. And so I remember do you remember on television used to be the Ozzie and Harriet show?
Yep.
You remember that? It was really a big television show. Well, and on the show, Ricky Nelson and his brother grew up on the show. They were actors as part of the show, and he also used to sing songs, right?
Yeah.
So she took me down he was doing a show, and Ozzie and Harriet were there, and I got to meet those people.
Oh, man.
Pretty funky. And I got to meet him. He was a cool guy. I always felt bad about his later on, because I liked his stuff. He was a legitimate songwriter and singer.
Yeah.
And he wrote that song, Garden Party, where he did it like a lot of people do. I was very fortunate when I went out to sing years after my hits. I was still doing well, and people said they loved my new tunes, and they didn't. There was no, just sing this song, You know, I'd sing it and they'd like it, but I could do new ones. You know, whereas he did that show Garden Party, and I mean Bob Dylan was there, all kinds of guys were there, and he was a legitimate guy, and he was trying to sing some new stuff, and people kept yelling out, sing the old stuff, and he not shortly after that, he died in a plane crash, and I think he died, a little unhappy. On that little unresolved,
It's kind of sad when people get caught in a stereotype situation, be it an actor or a musician. I'm sure there's a few musicians that have signature songs that if you asked them deep down what they thought, they'd probably say, it's been really good to me, but I wish I could have been known for, 3 or 4 more like it, so that I wouldn't have had to rely on it all the time, because after X amount of decades, it's getting kind of old.
Yeah.
I mean, it must. I remember meeting Chuck Negron from Three Dog Night, and him saying, and he says, if I would have known that I was going to be singing these songs 30 years later, I'd have wrote them in a different key.
Yeah. That's so true. So true. Yeah.
And then you got guys like Ray Sawyer, like no matter what, just would not give up. You know, like everything that man put into his body and everything he put his body through, he never gave up. I seen him in 2004 with his son and Mr. Francis at the casino in Halifax. And God love him. He tried to sing Sylvia's mother, him and his son.
Right.
And I've been a big fan. My basement is called the
That's
Silver
from Dr.
Dollar.
Hook, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
right.
and he just, it was time that he laid that one to rest.
I saw those guys in Massey Hall, and I had a really good seat. I was like up on the balcony, but I was right on the side on the first balcony. I would like jump on the stage, and I really enjoyed those guys. They were good. I was going to get into this one other thing about. We talked the last time about you know being down home in a situation where it's like, in the grandeur of Hollywood, etc. And I remember Sharon says, "Okay, I'm going to bring you over to meet the Everly Brothers. We're invited over to Phil's place." He said, "It's okay, bring them along, because they don't want fans around. They're not interested in fans in their privacy, because they're going to be real, and they don't want that stuff getting out." And so after I met him, he showed me a room with like 40 or 50 or 60 guitars on stands, that electric guitars that they gave him. He said, "I haven't played any of them, just a couple acoustic guitars." I said, "Man," I was just drooling. And because there are a lot of 60s, Strats and stuff. Oh my God. And Tellys and stuff. Anyway, so the next time he invited us out to dinner, and this time was going to be with him and his brother and their wives. So I remember, now here I am, I've already been on Singalong. I had, years of television, and I was a professional, had all this stuff going, and I was on top of it. And the limousine pulled up. It's an old caddy limousine, pulled up in front. And Phil was driving, Dawn was driving, and Phil, one of the wives in between and out the window. "How you doing, Sherry?" He calls Sherry. They're from the old days. I mean, they're all friends. They went through everything. All that, if I could give you the James Burton, who played guitar for Elvis, all those guys all grew up together and played with, Johnny Burnett and all those guys, right? So we're getting in the back seat, and I get in first and sit by the window, and I'm shaking because the Everly Brothers are my heroes.
Okay.
Like, I mean, when I'm in growing up, the radio was everything to me, because that's why I write. I'm a radio guy. I wrote like the radio. So I'm in the back and I'm shaking. I said, "Sherry, geez, I don't know if I can do this." Well, she ribs me. She goes, like this, right in my ribs. She goes, "Now you listen to me." She said, "They are treating you like an artist on an equal level. They don't want a fan." And she straightened me right out in a minute. I went, "Oh my God." And I pulled my socks up real quick, and I never went back. I went, "Oh yeah, right."
Yeah.
Yeah, I got it together now.
Well, I learned that as an MC. Like I've emceed one particular festival that's brought in some pretty big names. And you learn right off the bat that if you come at these people starstruck and all gaga and goo goo, they want absolutely nothing to do with you.
Mm.
I'm there to do a job. My job is to make sure that the show goes the way it's supposed to go, on time, that they get out and that they have what they need. That's what I'm there for, not to be fawning over them or drooling or looking for pictures or autographs or any of that. Cordial conversation, treat them like a human being, and not anything. Now, mind you, some of them really want you to treat them special, but sure. You do what you can do. But for the most part, I find if you treat them like real people, you got her made.
Absolutely. I mean, I was at that whole Bob Dylan review that came around a while ago, years ago. It was with I don't know what to call him. It was like a medicine show or something. Bob, I think Joni was in it. Tobias was in it. Raven, the female violinist, was in it. They traveled all over North America. Well, I was invited to a party up at Gordon Lightfoot's, and it was a real relaxed situation. Gordon was shooting pool. He was hammered a bit, and and I was standing and having Bob Dylan was in the kitchen all by himself. And I was standing talking to Sarah Dillon, his wife, and Joan Baez, and I think Joni. We're just having a quick conversation. Don't get me wrong, I'm not their buddies, but we're just talking. And I said to Sarah, I said, how come Bob's by himself in the kitchen? She goes, well, she says, nobody wants to talk to him. They think they don't want to go near, they don't want to bother him. I said, you're kidding me. She goes, no, he doesn't mind talking. And I said, she said, go and talk to him. So I went in the kitchen and said, hey, Bob, I just want to, my name's Ken Tobias, I'm a songwriter, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, how you doing? How you doing, Ken? Not bad. And I just want to say, and I had a chance to say thank you to you for all the guys I know would probably like to be here right now to say thank you to you. All my buddies and stuff. But anyway, so we talked a little bit. And then I went outside and started to talk to him again. I was talking to, and Joan Baez is a very wonderful person, but fairly serious. It's like your older sister or something. And everything's kind of cool. And then in comes Ronnie Hawkins and his band. And I know Ronnie. I've done his honky tonk shows, and I know him, fairly. I partied with him and danced with him and did some gigs with him. Not gigs with him, but I gigged with him. And but he's got a couple of boys in the band that are pretty out there. And they came in, and all of a sudden they were causing a bit of trouble. And I threw a beer bottle at the fireplace, and as soon as that happened, I heard Joan Baez say, "Oh God, there goes Sanctuary. I guess we better go." And I thought to myself, "Oh my God, these people, because they're such well-known people, don't get a place to go where they can actually sit down, have a drink, have a smoke, do whatever they want to do normally, that they normally do with other artists, without fans around, nobody, where they can be real." And all of a sudden this comes in and causes grief. And they said, there goes Sanctuary. And they had to go. I thought, it really stuck with me. I went, oh, that's really kind of sad.
Really, really sad. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take another little short break here, and we're going to come right back with Mr. Ken Tobias, and we're going to continue this and finish it up. So hang tight. We'll be right back at you. Okay, there we go. So now, you're right. I often say that I wouldn't want that kind of fame. I mean, can you imagine not being able to go to a restaurant, not be able to go out, just go for a walk, just go to a park and enjoy yourself?
I remember, remember the actor Harry Gardino?
Harry Gardino.
He was a big star, and he was in a lot of movies in the old days. Harry Gardino, he was in The Greatest Story of Our Time about Jesus Christ, where he was in that movie where he played Barabbas.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I know who Barabbas was in The Greatest Story Ever Told.
That's right. He played Barabbas in that. So that was Harry Gardino. Anyway, I was in a place called Martoni's, which was a famous restaurant where a lot of the big stars ate. I just had somebody brought me there. Okay. And I remember sitting, and he was over there, and some people came in, and he was eating with a lady, and he was quiet. And this people came over, and they interrupted him while he was eating. And he was pretty gracious about it, but he told them. And I remember listening to him saying, he's doing it the right way. He said, would you, hi, Mr. Gardino, hi, nice to see you. How you doing? And he said, look, I'm having dinner. Could you just back off a bit? He said, oh, we're really sorry, but can you sign this? They would not have. So he said, okay, he signed it. Then he said to them, what would you do if you were sitting eating with your sitting with your family, and all of a sudden somebody came over and interrupted a conversation you're having that's really intimate and personal, or they were having comments about health or about somebody being sick, or somebody had died and so on, and you come and interrupt them like this? Oh, well, that's what you did to me. I'm grateful that you're a fan, but you shouldn't do this to anybody. Yeah. And the way he did it in such a way, they said, well, we're really sorry. We apologize for that. He said, okay, thanks very much for being a fan. See you later. And I think it got to them. But, I thought it really hit me. I thought, that's true. But see, I never really made it that big, so big, a little bit, but that big where people interrupted me, and maybe I would have wished to. I don't know. I'm just kidding.
A friend of mine and her boyfriend were on the waterfront in Halifax and walking along down by the casino, and they ran into Rob Lowe.
Oh, yeah.
My friend goes, that looks like Rob Lowe. So anyway, they kind of looked at him a bit, and she went over and she said, excuse me. She said, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you or to bother you. but are you Rob Lowe? And he said, oh yeah. He said, I'm Rob Lowe. She said, what are you doing in Halifax? He said, I love it here. He said,
Well, that was a good start. What are you doing in Halifax?
Yeah.
An opening.
And he said, I love it here. He said, I come here all the time. She said, you do? Why? He said, well, one of the reasons is people like you. He said, in the States, if I walk around somewhere, he said, I get mobbed. He said, people get in my face. They're up all in my business. He said, they're rude. They don't care. They want my autograph. They're shoving things at me, wanting pictures and all that stuff. He said, Canadians, he said, you guys apologize to say hello.
Yeah.
So he said, I love it up here.
Well, what's that say? What's somebody had made a point of saying that you're kind of insecure because you're always saying, how's it going, eh?
Yeah.
The A part is the insecurity. Like they want somebody to go along with them,
Yeah, like, is it all right?
Is it all right?
But I've noticed something in this conversation that we've had, and I would never call it an interview because I think it's anything but. But I have noticed in the conversation a couple of times that you almost apologize for knowing some of the people that you do and being in some of the places that you've been. And I don't really think you should, my friend, because you earned it.
Well, it's just that, sometimes there's an old saying I learned, it's hard to put a large sword in a small scabbard.
Yeah.
And I have been around people who I would say would not understand or have had that experience. And if you say, I've been at parties where nobody really knew me except for my cousins or a couple of friends or something like this. And they'll say, yeah, they're watching TV or they're listening to a record and they're going, yeah, man, I love this record. And I go, yeah, I know that guy. And they look at me funny and they go, who's he think he is? I have gotten that.
Yeah.
And so I go, oh, okay, wait a minute. I'm in a place where it's totally different than where I was. And they wouldn't necessarily understand what that's about because that's my life.
And they wouldn't necessarily appreciate it. Yes, it is your life, but at the same time, anybody that has any love whatsoever of music should be very appreciative of the contributions that you've made. You've got over 300 songs registered. You've got 19 hits. You put out your last album in 2008. 24 years. 24 years after, you put out another album. So you've never been irrelevant. You will never be irrelevant. You have made a difference and you have touched the lives of a lot of people, not just the gentlemen, which, by the way, I will think about for a long, long, long time. That story, but that, my friend, just tells me that it should tell you just how important you have been.
I think in trying to look at it like objectively, and trying to look at it without, like you talked, you were saying about being apologizing for what's happened. I do try to get out of that, be that other person and look and say, okay, Ken, this is what you did. Because I do follow that spiritual path. I knew this was what my dharma. I know I'm supposed to do this stuff. And what goes along with it is this other stuff. As long as you don't read your press too much, as long as you don't pat yourself on the back all the time, and you're allowed to enjoy it a little bit. Every once in a while you get an accolade. I got inducted into the Nova Scotia Music Hall of Fame. That was like a lot of fun. And, I got up and I said, this is great fun, and thanks a lot. And, Bruce Guthrie and those guys were all there. And it was up in Sydney,
Oh, boy.
It was, what better place to get it, and the place of real people. And
we could talk a couple hours about the after party there, I'm sure.
It was just great, and well, we actually went to, gosh, I shouldn't get in this because I can't remember the hosts' names. They were comedians. She was a comedian and he was a comedian, her husband.
Bette McDonald.
Might have been. She was a dark-haired woman.
Could have been Bette. Yeah, it's hard to say. Bette could be a dark-haired woman one day and a redhead the next.
Anyway, so it was really nice because you know what we did? It was Kim Dunn was there. I love his playing.
Oh,
There's
man.
an underrated artist, boy. I tell you that
Woo!
guy.
Yes.
You know, I've always loved him. He's a good songwriter. And not only
Yeah.
that, I said he didn't have a keyboard because we were passing the guitar around, and he didn't have a keyboard. And he said, well, give me the guitar. I said, wait a minute, you don't play
Wow.
guitar. And he had this way of playing guitar I've never seen in my life.
I'm going to ask him about that when I see him again.
And he sang songs that were so sophisticated, yet I said, do you play guitar? No, not really. So I can press these places here. And he was getting those kind of chords he was getting on his piano. I was going, how are you doing that? And he's saying these incredible tunes. I just think that Kim Dunn is just in his singing and his playing and stuff.
Yeah. Well, him and Matt were doing a thing by themselves, just the two of them there for a little while. They were doing a little duo.
Who, Kim and who?
Kim and Matt Minglewood.
Oh yeah. I never saw that one.
Yeah.
I met him first when he was playing with a guy by the name of Graham Breeze, a guy from England, and Rick McKay on bass.
Okay.
And the three of them were doing a trio thing, and man, it was really Graham Breeze's gig. He comes from England, comes here and does a tour, and he works with an English guy over apparently all through Europe and stuff. But anyway, he was here, and that's why I met them. They played here in St. John, and I was just so impressed with how it sounded. It sounded really like a record right on stage. Just the three of them. It was in St. John downtown. There's a couple of wood carvings of people sitting and so on and so forth. They're around and they're inside the building down there. Well, these wood carvings are made by this guy in St. John who passed away out in Rosse or somewhere around there. Anyway, so his daughter has a little up in his workshop, which was very small. Like he paid, I don't know, a bit of money to get a seat. It was like only maybe 15 or 20 people at the most to see this concert. And that's where they had it. And it was like, like really intimate. And I was really glad I was there. It was in the middle of winter. God, it was cold that night. But it was just such a good intimate thing. Like I said, it was like a record. And, I'm particular about that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
And so that's when I first met Kim. And I went out to him. I said, Kim, Jesus, man, you're something else.
He's just absolutely amazing. I've had the pleasure to watch him play and bring him in, in the bands that he's with on stage. We just got to see him. He was playing for Matt Anderson on Matt's latest thing here just before the COVID thing all shut down. He did a show at the new convention center here in Halifax, and
right.
I was about 50 feet away from him. I did wave at him a couple of times. He was in the back, and then Chris Kirby was right in front of him playing the piano, and just an amazing night. But hey, folks, are you looking to sell your home in today's crazy busy market? You need a professional. You need Thomas Meissen of Red and White Realty to help you sell your home. With over 17 years experience in the business, Thomas knows what he's doing. So if you need good, solid real estate advice and you need somebody to sell your house, you need to call Thomas Meissen at Red and White Realty at 902-233-5111. And here at the Wolf's Den, we're happy to have Thomas and Red and White Realty as a sponsor of the Wolf's Den. For all your real estate needs, give them a call. That's 902-233-5111. Red and White Realty with Mr. Thomas Meissen, your real estate pro. My friend, I know you're not doing a whole lot of stuff like you're still writing your songs and everything like that. But if people would like to reach out to you, and if you're okay with that, how would they go about doing that?
It depends on who they are.
So people can see you on Facebook and stuff like that.
Facebook,
you're at your limit.
Facebook, I'm at my limit right now. I mean, I've got a waiting list of about 13 people or 14 people right now.
Yeah.
And as soon as I get a break, I just go to the person who's in the list and I hit it, and in they come. As a matter of fact, I got Alex in recently.
Yeah, Alex was telling me. Now, is it possible for people to see your pictures without access?
My paintings, yes.
So
Now
your paintings are they on a public page?
they're on. No, that's a good question. Not
Like when
too.
you put a painting up, do you make the post public? So
Yeah,
that,
I
yeah,
think I do. If you go to my site, my photos. I don't know if I
yes,
guess you go to my photos. Under photos are albums, and then under the albums you go to Ken Tobias paintings various, and there's like 160 or 170 paintings there that a
just
person
eye
can.
candy.
Yeah, well, I guess. I hope. And you go in there, you can see them, and some are like I always tell people, some are for sale, and if you're interested in something, I don't have any prices on them there. If you're interested in something, you just inquire about it, and then on Messenger, and I'll get back to you. Last year, I sold I don't know several paintings. I should say last year, meaning just recently last year. Right during the this COVID thing, over the last 6 7 months, I sold more paintings than I did all last year. Couldn't believe.
Well,
Well, because people didn't spend their money.
no, and you know what? People are looking and they're finding stuff, online now that they would have never ever looked for before because they didn't have any need to.
And it's
Now
a kind of escapism for them too, And I always tell them, look at this, if you're going to want this painting, and I try to make it available. My teacher told me once, look, Ken, you got to do what you have to do. You have to sell your paintings for what you think they deserve. At the same time, don't put them so out of reach. It's like if you walk down the street past a window and you see a beautiful thing, a beautiful antique, and it's like just out of reach of you, you should make the effort and buy it because you're supposed to have it. Because if there's not an effort, it's like they also told me, look, you got some books that people want, especially if they're books on wisdom, etc. If they want the book, don't give it to them. Let them borrow it and read it by a little bit. But if they really want it, don't give it to them. Let them go and buy it because you have to make the effort.
Yeah.
So that when you get it, it means something to you.
I always found that if you give something to somebody, there's no real appreciation because they didn't do anything to earn that right to have it. But if you make them work a little bit, or if they have to do something, then there's appreciation there, and they're more apt to take better care of it and appreciate it more, and just all around, it'll be a better thing if there's something that they have to give out to get it.
I send my paintings all over North America, and I actually create there's two packages. The first package I make it out of what I call plasticore. It's about 1/4 inch thick and it's hollow, but it's strong as hell. You can kick that. And I make the boxes myself, and they're hard in my hands. And but I do it and make sure that they're really, really well. And there's also foam covering wrapping inside around them to protect them, and so on. And then I take that down to UPS and I have them box it again with all those foam bubbles all around it, so that it's now in another box, and then we ship it out. So
Wow.
I don't charge for the personal packaging that I do, what it costs me. I don't charge for any of that stuff at all. All I do is charge for what the shipping of the actual package that UPS does. There's no sense and there's no need for it. I'm getting enough money. That's fine. I appreciate. I made the price, and that's fine. But you know something? I'm represented in Ontario by the True North Gallery, which is a large, big gallery. It's the only musicians art gallery in the world.
Wow.
And it's run by the head of True North Records.
Wicked.
Yeah, Jeff Urlarak, I believe his name. I can't quite pronounce his name. But anyway, him and his wife are the curators of that particular museum. Anyway, I'm hanging next to Bob Dylan. I'm hanging next to Tony Bennett. I'm hanging next to Murray McLaughlin and all these people. It's a fantastic. Might be someone if you should get in touch with maybe to talk about.
That would be something to do. Mr. Ken Tobias, I could talk to you, my friend, for days and days and days.
And we talk well for some reason. You get it out of me, man.
Well, I really, really appreciate you taking the time, because I know you got other stuff going on in your life. And seriously, I want you to know that I really mean this from my heart. I'm thinking about you.
Thank you.
And what's going on with you. And I really hope that this is the very beginning of a friendship that will continue on now for
Thank you, Wayne.
years to come.
Listen, I wanted to ask you, how much time do we have left?
We're pretty much out, buddy, but what do you need?
Oh, I just wanted to ask, are you playing a song of mine called Soul Tune?
I can play Soul Tune if that's what you want me to play.
The reason is that that's a fairly recent song that I've written and produced and put out. I just want to say it was because I had an illness. And funny thing is, when you get illnesses and stuff, it's very hard to express yourself. You can't say, well, I had a tumor and I took it out of my stomach. you can't do that.
No.
So I was trying to find a way to write it. And I wrote some chords. And I had a bunch of guys here one day, and I said, can we jam these chords out? We jammed the chords out and played lead on them, but there was no lyrics. Never going to me, oh man, I love this. I love this. Makes me feel, this song makes me feel. And I went, oh my God, when I play this guitar and I play this tune, and I said, that's the approach. I can talk about actually writing the song or playing the guitar. It makes me feel a certain way. And then I was able to write lyrics that expressed how I felt, how I came close to death, and so on and so forth. So that soul tune really means a lot to me. And
we'll make sure that it gets on the air for sure.
Okay, thanks.
Again, my friend, from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much. And thank you for all of the excellent music you've given us over the years and all of the beautiful eye candy that you've created with your paintbrushes.
Thanks a lot.
With your vision. I wish you nothing but the best. Ladies and gentlemen, as we always say on the Wolf's Den, please, please, please be kind to one another. Be nice. It doesn't take very much at all to brighten somebody's day. And now, inside your bubble, please remember, always, always, always hug the ones you love, because they might not be here tomorrow. Thanks for stopping by.
Don't forget to give a little love.
And to give a little love is right.
On your pillow, the pain in your eyes, the truth is revealing, is there in your breathing. Above the veranda, a full moon is rising, stretching her shadows to the valley below. The sound on the TV is making you crazy. The sound of your heartbreak makes your tears flow. Take a good look at the walls all around you. Life without love is a desperate place. Winner or loser, it's your decision. A small fall from grace might put a smile on your face, baby. Call me and I'll be there. Reach out and touch me, and I will be waiting. Call me, I'll be there. I'll stop the bleeding if you stop the hating. Call me, and I'll be there. Reach out and touch me, and I will be waiting for you. But I'll never surrender until you let go, until you admit that you were mistaken. You wrongly accused me, and everyone knows. Take a good look at the walls all around you. Life without love is a desperate place. Winner or loser, it's your decision. A small fall from grace might put a smile on your face, baby. Call me and I'll be there. Reach out and touch me, and I will be waiting. Call me and I'll be there. I'll stop the bleeding if you stop the hating. Call me and I'll be there. Reach out and touch me, and I will be waiting for you. never let you